Training. If you don't know me, I'm Elise Orlick. I'm the executive director of FairVote Washington, and I've been in this role for a little over 6 months now. In that time that I've been on board, I have heard concerns from people around the state about where our democracy is headed here in Washington, in our country, and in other parts of the world. And the common theme I hear from all these people is that politics is broken. The way that we choose our leaders and the governance that results from those decisions is just not working, and it's not leading to a representative democracy. And that is FairVote Washington's vision of representative democracy that works for all. That's always going to include moving towards ranked choice voting at all levels of government, because this is literally the choir right here. I don't need to tell you that ranked choice voting has the potential to improve discourse during campaigns and once our leaders are in office, to lead to more effective governance that represents everyone in our state. But representative democracy is also an all of the above approach, and that will include strengthening voter registration and providing materials for voters in their native language. For us, it also means supporting programs that are working to bring other voices into our system, like in Seattle, where we have the Democracy Voucher Program. I bring this up because you may have seen us talking about some of these issues in recent months, or you may have seen a couple weeks ago when we came out in opposition to a proposal currently in front of Seattle City Council that would roll back their ethics requirements. We're doing this in response to what we're hearing from all of you and to really fully live up to our mission. So I wanted to reassure all of you that we choose these fights carefully. It's always with our vision in mind. And we've also decided to take on these fights because we've determined this is what it will take to bring RCV to Washington's state, local, and federal elections. It's about building a strong coalition of supporters for growing, strengthening, and expanding Washington's democracy and all the different policies that shape that and the voices that are part of that. And that strategy starts with those of us who are in the room tonight. We are kicking off a series of trainings that we'll be hosting over the next few months to help build all of our skills and ensure that we're working from the same playbook. There'll be a chance to use these skills throughout the summer and the fall if you're engaged in our work. So I'm really glad to have all of you here and to keep seeing these faces over the next few months. Now I'll kick it off to our very talented organizer, Natalie, or the Morganizer.
Thank you so much, Elise, and thank everyone for being here tonight. We do have a packed agenda, so I'm just going to jump right into it. You all know me, your friendly neighborhood Morganizer. I will introduce, there are going to be a couple other folks joining us with some invaluable insight throughout the night. We usually see Carrie here in the driver's seat. She's working behind the scenes, our talented, amazing senior organizing manager. She's holding it down with the tech needs. Thanks so much, Carrie. We'll be hearing from her later. We also have the pleasure of welcoming a true pitch professional, Humberto Marquez Jr. They're going to be here providing some insight on how best to talk to people about ranked choice voting, how to get people interested and on board. Since we all know and love Carrie, sorry you got a shorter introduction, I'm just going to introduce Humberto really quick. Humberto is a dedicated human rights activist with years of experience advancing voting rights, social justice through their work with Amnesty International. Humberto's political engagement work includes working on the campaigns of Bernie Sanders and ranked choice voting champion Stacey Abrams. Humberto has especially focused on grassroots mobilization, voter outreach efforts, and their work doing public outreach and community engagement continues today as they serve as the donor relations coordinator for the incredible Seattle nonprofit El Centro de la Raza. Thanks for being here, Humberto. I will say a little breakdown of how the night's going to go. The first half of this is a training that will be recorded, put up onto our YouTube for folks who want to watch it again and again. So that first half, please stay on mute. During the second half, we will have an interactive portion. You'll be able to answer or ask questions. We'll be able to chat. So as you have questions throughout this, just write them down, write your thoughts down, bring them up in the second half of this. So this isn't going to be exactly about how ranked choice voting works. We all know it. We all love it. But we will go over a brief refresher of the main ranked choice voting talking points. Um, we're going to talk about why it's necessary to talk about electoral reform with Carrie and Umberto, and how we can talk about it most effectively. So with that being said, let's jump into it. So let's see. All right. The next slide maybe is there we go. This is what Elise said from the very beginning. Politics are broken. You know, voters are feeling disempowered. Communities don't feel represented. Constructive disagreement is not happening. um, you've heard this. You've talked to your friends. You've seen it on social media. People aren't happy. They don't feel represented. And when we're not feeling represented, that means the things that we care about, the things we need to get done, they're not getting done. And that's not just anecdotal. There's actual statistics on this. About 85% of people feel that their elected officials don't care what their constituents think. That is the vast majority of people feeling like their representatives are not there to represent them. So, exactly, disempowered. So, the first, oh, uh, the one of the biggest, most important benefits when it comes to talking about ranked choice voting is it empowers voters because you can vote for who you want, vote for who you really want. This is how voting should feel. This is an empowering thing. This is your voice. And ranked choice voting allows you to have a stronger voice because you're voting for something, not against something you don't want. You know, in ranked choice voting elections, almost 80%, it's 78% of voters had the winning candidate ranked in their top three choices. Very different from what we have now. And we see that actually there's about a 17% increase in voter turnout, which improves representation. That's what a representative democracy is supposed to look like, is as many voices being heard as possible. So this is something I actually wanted to kick over to Umberto. I know they have a lot to speak on this topic. They've done a lot of community and voter engagement, and have some good, some would even say wise, insight into why it's so important to engage and represent your communities and what improving representation means.
Thank you, Natalie. Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to kind of do a lot of like door-to-door work, canvassing all over the country. I'm sure a lot of people here have been canvassed before, and it's a really good opportunity to, really meet people where they're at, where they're the most comfortable and going to be the most open to you, which is like right at their home. Um, and I remember very specifically, I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma once, canvassing there with Amnesty International, and people being very surprised at having someone come to their door. I'd had multiple people tell me they had been living in Tulsa for decades, and not once had they ever somebody come to their door and talk about politics with them, which was really surprising to me because I felt as a canvasser, everyone's trying to get us away from them, not talk to us. But people in Tulsa are very happy to see us and talk. And one of the things that they told me was that uh, because of that kind of lesser culture of being that type of involved, they feel a lot of things that people in other cities feel, which is they don't feel represented by their government with their ideas. And it causes even lower and lower turnout as that culture really spirals inwards towards itself, right? Like people don't win an election, they feel like they're not represented, uh, and the engagement goes down. And it kind of keeps going like that until, you have decades between people coming to your door and trying to engage you in these type of things. So that engagement is really important. That representation is really important because without it, people really turn off.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to represent the majority of people when you don't engage with them, and when they are not engaged with, they don't see the point in coming out to vote. So I can see that. And as a former canvasser, I would be, yeah, that's interesting to think of people being like, hey, come on in. You're, why are not instead of why are you knocking on my door again? But that actually leads right into the next point here. Is exactly that. More positive campaigns, with ranked choice voting, the campaigning actually changes. Candidates are incentivized to reach out to a broader range of voters, go into these communities and talk to people and listen to people. They need not just a first choice vote, they need to be people's second choice vote. They need to be the third choice vote. So that means not being divisive. That means looking for things that we have in common and listening to people, meeting them where they're at. And we see in cities that have ranked choice voting, it's been shown that people were significantly more satisfied with the conduct of local elections, local campaigns, excuse me. That's, candidates are engaging with all of their voters. So they're sure to elect the winner is going to have to engage with everybody. It does not pay to be divisive in a campaign like this. It really pays to be collaborative. And we all know divisiveness is a problem, to say the least, I would say. People are not usually happy with the political rhetoric that goes on, which actually leads right in with these positive campaignings. What comes out of positive campaigns is a better functioning government. That's another huge benefit to ranked choice voting is a government that actually works together. We have campaign cycles where people are tearing their opponents down, they're tearing their opponents' supporters down, and then they have to if they win an election, they get into office and they have to craft legislation with these people they've spent weeks and months, you know, calling ugly or whatever people say. With ranked choice voting elections, we see so much more of a focus on the actual issues. And when we're talking issues, when we're talking collaboration, instead of being divisive and personally attacking people, as candidates are elected, when they're in office, they're actually able to get some things done. you know, and when we can work together, we do get things done. And that's probably why people like ranked choice voting. That is one of the biggest points to hit everywhere that it's in places like Alaska, Maine, Virginia, Utah, California. Voters like ranked choice voting. It's the fastest growing nonpartisan reform. Carrie can see your. Oh, sorry. Um, for a reason, uh, because it is simple, it's easy to use, and has all of these benefits where people are getting out of the voting process what they should be getting out of it. A candidate who represents the majority, who is listening to what their constituents needs. These representatives are representative, and people tend to like that. So all of that being said, you know, so many benefits. I would love to ask, well, actually just I'd love to bring maybe Carrie out from the background here and ask, what do you like about ranked choice voting? We've heard all these benefits. Would love to hear some of what Carrie thinks.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. And great to see everyone tonight. I really have to say my favorite thing about ranked choice voting, well, there's a million, but I really love that you get to vote for who you really want to, without fear of splitting the vote, without fear of compromising your values. And I think that translates so directly into having leadership that is reflective of our communities. And that is undeniably powerful and the vision of our country that we hope to have. So ranked choice voting to me is definitely a step towards a more perfect union, and there's lots of benefits that come along the way. But thank you for asking.
Yeah, that's beautiful. A more perfect union. Did you just make that up? Yeah. And I'd like to toss it over to Umberto. What do you like about ranked choice voting? What do you see as some of the benefits to having it?
Uh, well, I'm supportive of it because it just brings about a lot more choices, right? I think America is far too big of a country to be encapsulated in just two-party platforms. So I think it encourages a lot of diversity of ideas, um, as well as conversations about the direction of our country.
That's great. Yeah, I like to joke that it's like, this is America. Come on, I have like 30 different flavors of Oreos. I've only got 2 choices to choose from. I don't think so. So like we keep saying, there are so many benefits to ranked choice voting, and I am preaching to the choir here. But something that can be a little bit more abstract is why democracy reform is actually a solution to the problems that we're facing. You know, we have the price of eggs and housing and all these kinds of things going on. There's a lot of things going on. Umberto, why is democracy reform like ranked choice voting part of the solution to a lot of the problems that people are facing?
Well, I think, being kind of in the organized space a lot, I think you see a lot of people, or even in any spaces, talk about like how they're going to vote during election years, and even struggling to want to vote for the person that they want to vote for, because of how polarized we are, right? And being one of the first constitutional democracies, I think obviously we got a lot of things right, but even George Washington warned against having a two-party system. And even with those warnings, we have one because of the first past the post systems. And there's room in our laws to be able to tweak our system a little bit. So I think it's definitely within the parameters of what the founding fathers wanted in this kind of like laboratory of democracy, to keep going towards something which benefits more people and more people are happy with.
Yeah, that's so great. I don't know if you knew, but actually we have little stickers with George Washington says, I heart RCV, because we know he does. Washington hearts RCV. Carrie, I'd love to ask you the same question. Why do you think it's important to talk about democracy reform in particular?
What a great question. Sorry, I thought I was done. Ran away. I think democracy reform is so important because democracy was never meant to be a static fixture. It was always meant to be a laboratory that we evolve in, that we test in, that we strive to meet our needs. And we were never meant to just try one thing and stick forever. Everything in our life evolves, change is the only constant. And I think of Merriam-Webster adding new words every year. Our language changes, our lives change, the realities that we live in change, and our democracy needs to be able to keep up and be reflective of all of these changes.
Yeah, that's so true. The one thing that never changes is things always change, right? Or something like that. But yeah, thank you for both those answers. Carrie, I'd like to ask you another question. We know why it's important, we know why it's part of the solution, but there are a lot of benefits. There is a lot to say. So how can we effectively talk about, democracy and ranked choice voting?
Amazing question. I'd say the biggest, most important thing is to keep it simple and to not try to dive down into the weeds. Talk about what you like about it in the values-based way. I compare talking about ranked choice voting to the climate movement quite a lot, that the first people to ring the bell on the climate crisis were scientists and spoke to us as if we would be able to understand the urgency as somebody who studies climate science all day long might. And that wasn't the case. And the campaigns that are most won these days around climate barely mention it. So we need to find other ways to talk about the world we're living in and connect our realities to democracy in more concrete ways.
Yeah, because I'm definitely no climate scientist or anything. Um, Thank you, Carrie. Umberto, I'd like to ask you, I know this is kind of your area of expertise, really, talking to people, getting out there, hitting the streets. What do you think is important when it comes to having these conversations?
Yeah, I think probably the most important thing is keep it simple and keep it conversational, right? I think especially if you're in a room like this, you're probably very knowledgeable about the political system and electoral politics. Uh, but not everybody is, right? So you want to kind of level your excitement and really just meet people where they're at. Give them, we like to call like an elevator pitch about it, because a lot of times you're going to be the introduction to ranked choice voting for them. So just stick to some like really simple talking points. And also remember, if this is their first time hearing about it, you get to control the narrative, right? You get to be the one that's like, hey, this is easy. It's a natural evolution of what we have. And yeah, you do know a lot about these things, but save them for the follow-up questions as well. Because people will have questions if they're interested. And that's where you can really shine that knowledge you have.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've heard something like fly above the forest, stay out of the trees. You keep it simple. And then, like you said, you don't want to overwhelm people with all the statistics that you know. I think it's great. I think one of the first things I learned from Carrie was that there is a danger in knowing too much a little bit when you bring that into conversations, because you can really overwhelm people. And you don't, last thing you want is people's eyes glazing over when we're talking something so important as democracy reform. So thank you both so much. We're actually going to have a couple examples of how to put this into practice. I've asked Umberto to show us some examples of some pitches, and we can see. We'll see if you guys can pick out which is the best of these examples, and hopefully learn, something from it. So with that, Umberto, I'd invite you to take it away.
Nice. My favorite part. I love to do these role plays. Okay. Nice. Hey, Nally, how you been?
I've been good, Umberto. How are you?
I've been good. Yeah, I actually wanted to talk to you about this thing called ranked choice voting. It's really cool.
Oh,
Yeah. So, well, RCV, it's a kind of a new way of voting. It would really, really get rid of the two-party system and elect more moderate people. And what it does is essentially you have, a big pool of candidates, more than just Democrats and Republicans, and you rank them based on how much you like them. And when everybody comes in and votes, there's like an instant runoff, right?
oh, what does that mean?
Nice. So, yeah, good question. So the person with the least amount of votes will be taken off the ballot. So anybody who voted for them with their first rank, now their second choice is now their first rank, and it keeps doing that over and over again. It's really simple, believe me. A kindergartner could do it, and people are really ecstatic about it. It really gets more people voted in. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah, you should come sometime.
Great. And scene. Thank you, Umberto. I know this was an example, I think most people could tell, of a not very good introduction to ranked choice voting. Thank you, Umberto, for, again, making yourself look like such a fool with this. No, but some of the things I do want to point out in this pitch or in this conversation that is being had. A few things that we want to stay away from. I think one of the biggest things that might stand out about that conversation is how confusing it sounds. We all know ranked choice voting is simple, but anything, if you explain it in depth, can sound complicated. So jumping off with an explanation of how votes are counted is something I would really, really recommend you certainly don't start with, and only really get into if people have a question about how votes are counted. Umberto, you said something about ranked choice voting electing moderates. That's not necessarily even true. That's not something we like to say. So if that's something you have said before, which is fine, maybe think of something more like ranked choice voting elects candidates approved by the majority, and people can understand what that means, that they have to have majority approval. They have to have broad support. Saying even a kindergartner could do it, Umberto, I felt a little insulted. So maybe say it's an easy thing. We rank things every day. We do not say it will end the two-party system. That is not sort of within the purview of anything that we're really talking about. We like to say you get to vote for who you want to. Stay away from, talking about parties or talking more explicitly about, the explicit politics. You just get to say the benefits of ranked choice voting. So I'd love to give you another shot at a better pitch, Umberto. You think you got one in your back pocket?
I do think I have one in my back pocket. Hi. Hey, Nally, how you been? I've been good. I've actually been doing some volunteer work for ranked choice voting. I'm pretty new to it, but I'm really excited about all the benefits. You know how everyone is mad about everything right now, and there doesn't seem to be anything getting done, even though most people agree things are divisive and that two choices isn't enough. So what ranked choice voting does is allow you to rank candidates from a wider pool and feel really confident in ranking your favorite first. And because you're ranking the candidates, they're encouraged to reach out to more communities for their second and third place votes, making sure the winner has majority support. And it's already working. You know, we've seen it used in places statewide in Alaska and Maine, and voters really like it. So, I mean, it's really awesome.
Cool. Yeah. You been up to anything else? No. And scene. So that was, I think Roberto hit a lot of the right points. But another thing to remember is like, we don't want to lecture at people. This is a conversation. We're talking to people about something we care about something we're excited about, and, something that can make the world a better place. But we want to include them in this conversation. Like I said, last thing you want is eyes glaze over because then they'll start thinking it's complicated or boring, and it'll be hard to get them to get excited after that explanation. So, one last shot, Umberto. Do you got something better for me?
All right, here I go. Hey Natalie, how you doing?
I've been, I was gonna say good, but I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been good. You know, I've actually been doing some volunteer work for ranked choice voting. Yeah, have you heard of it?
Mm, maybe. I'm not sure.
Totally. Yeah. You know, I'm pretty new to it, but I'm really excited about all the benefits it brings. Do you mind if I tell you about it real quick?
I mean, sure, of course. If you're
Yeah.
excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So, you know, now we've talked about this before about, being disappointed with our government, how nothing ever gets done, no matter who's in charge. And I'm sure most of the people, we all talk to feel the same way. Uh, and uh, there's actually like a lot of statistics to back that up too. Like a lot of Americans are very, very dissatisfied with the current uh, system we have for elections. Uh, I mean, I'm sure you felt like you've had to vote for a candidate just because you liked, you know, one option less than the other.
Oh, yeah. And I'm glad to hear that there's statistics backing this up because I thought I was just like a negative Natalie. Me and my friends just like are negative or something because that's all I hear.
Totally. Well, no, you're not a negative Natalie. But most people do agree that two choices just aren't enough. So ranked choice voting lets you rank the candidates in the order you like most, instead of choosing just one. And because you're ranking candidates, they're a lot more encouraged to reach out to more communities, really reaching out for your second or third vote. And the winner has to have
Oh.
majority support in a ranked choice voting election, which totally makes sense for a representative democracy, right?
Yeah, majority support. That seems like an important thing. Uh, that sounds really cool, actually. I wish we could have that here in the United States.
Yeah, me too. And actually, there are already states who are using here in the United States. It's used statewide in Alaska, it's used in Maine, and voters really, really seem to like it across the board. They think it's easy, and almost 80% of voters rank the winning candidate as one of their top three choices. A little different than our current system, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's not like between my first and second choice when I'm voting right now. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Oh yeah, totally. And I've really been enjoying my time with FairVote Washington. There are a lot of ways to help, and everybody's really cool. I'd love to get you involved with it too. I'll be sure to share the next event with you. Maybe we can go together.
Great. That sounds great.
Nice.
And scene. Yeah, got in a little extra mention of FairVote Washington, this community that we have here. All of us together, we know that everyone who's here is a cool person that wants to make the world a better place. So that's a nice little invitation to learn more. And you know, when you're having these conversations, you are the trusted messenger. Umberto and I are friends. If they came to me and said, I'm excited about this, I would listen to them. You know, even if they did totally just give a speech at me, I'd probably still listen. But it uh, it is way more meaningful. I can have all the facts I want. Carrie and Elise and I can know everything there is to know about ranked choice voting. But what it really comes down to is coming from someone that you trust, that you've had conversations with, people you've talked to about all kinds of different things. So this brings us to the end of the training portion of the meeting, and now we're heading on to the fun interactive part, which will not be recorded. So I'll wait for the recording to end.